I think when we look at characteristics of ourselves or of people, being smart really should be the cornerstone of what we aspire for ourselves.
Hi everyone, I'm so pleased to introduce to you a very special episode of Smart is the New Sexy. I'm sitting down with Chicago native and criminal defense attorney Donna Rotunno discussing life, success, and what matters the most to her. You know, it's funny because I know some people that are going to be watching this are going to look and say, oh my God, she's defending a man that has been accused of these heinous crimes. Well, that's your job. And my job here is to tell the story of the woman that I first met and that I was in awe with. We were just sitting at dinner and you were with your group of friends and I was with my husband and we were just sitting there conversing, and I didn't know, but I knew something about you was very kind but very powerful too. I want to know, how were you like growing up?
So my mother will tell you that I went from child to adult. I never had that sort of interim stage of adolescence. I was just sort of somebody who I think was an old soul. I think I grew up with a good insight. I think I was always confident. I was never the kid that was shying away from things. I was definitely a homebody type of a kid. I wasn't like, the one that wanted to be out all the time, or I liked being with my family. And I think I was probably a little less fearless then than I am now, but I was always confident. As I've gotten older, I've become fearless, really.
Is that where your passion came from law? How did that come about, your interest for law?
It's really very interesting because I do not come from a family of lawyers. I come from a family of business people and entrepreneurs, and my dad was a really successful businessman in the food industry. But I remember being very young, I want to say 4 or 5 years old, and my dad would watch the show Paper Chase, and it was this show, and Professor Kingsfield was the teacher, and I would watch that show with him at a young age, and it was way above my head or level of understanding at that age, but something about it stuck with me, and I remember from a very young age saying that this is what I wanted to do, and I really never thought about doing anything else.
What were you like in law school? What was that for you? What was that experience like?
It's funny. I was a little different in law school, actually, than I was, I think, in all my education up to that point. I think I always excelled in school and did well. And once you get to law school, everybody's smart, right?
Yeah.
So everyone you're with, the pool has changed, the demographics have changed. And I think I was a little more reserved in law school than I was. I wasn't as confident walking in there. I think it was the unknown of the material and really being unsure. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't know what type of lawyer I wanted to be. So I think it was the first time I didn't have a very direct, clear idea of what I wanted. And I think I found that first year to be a year, I think for the first time in my life, I just sort of wanted to blend in. And I think part of that came from being such an overachiever. And I went right from college to law school, so I didn't take any breaks. So I graduated law school when I was 24. So I was very young.
Yeah.
And it's the first time, too, that there's such a diversity in age.
Yeah.
People that come back to law school. So I took a little bit longer to sort of get acclimated to that environment, I think. But once I did, I enjoyed it. And once I found that the classes I really liked involved criminal law and trial work and trial advocacy and evidence, and so once I realized that that's really what I like to do, then I felt like I hit my stride.
So this leads me to ask you, it's no secret you're representing Harvey Weinstein, very controversial client and a very high profile client. What was your reaction when you first got that phone call?
It was funny because in some ways, the call came into my office, my secretary took the phone call. I was actually on my way out to another meeting that I had to go to, and she was on the phone, and I was kind of trying to talk to her. She's on the phone, and I'm like, I'll talk to you later. And so by the time I get to my car, I had gotten a text message from her that someone from New York had called me, and it was a personal matter, and it was something big. And So I Googled the name of the person who called me, and it came back that he practiced a specific type of law. So I assumed that it was maybe an athlete that was charged with sexual assault on a college campus or something based on what I Googled quickly. And I called back, and he was lovely, and we spoke, and he told me that he was calling on behalf of Harvey Weinstein. And obviously, everyone knows who that is, and I knew the story, at least in terms of what any one of us would have heard in the news. I didn't really follow it much more than that. But I also spend a lot of time in Los Angeles, so of course, even though the case is in New York, so much of Harvey and his work stemmed from California and LA, so I was fairly familiar. But it was funny because I really was not surprised. I mean, sure, it's one of those calls in your life as a lawyer that you get, and it's a big case and it's a big deal, and but knowing the work that I've done and knowing the success that I've had in this arena in these types of cases, I really wasn't shocked that at some point in my career I would get a call like that one. And I said that much on the phone. I said, I'm not surprised to get this phone call. And it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Very quickly after that, I was flying to New York and meeting Harvey.
And I know. And it's funny because you said very matter of fact, but then that's when your lawyer hat came on, and it was like, okay, let's see what's going on so I can make sure that all of the facts, everything's laid out so I can make a sound decision of how I decide to move forward with this.
Sure, and in terms of the case itself, there was I never had one moment of hesitation about facts, Harvey, the situation, not one moment. The only hesitation that I ever had was about what it would do to everyone else in my life. Not even me. I mean, if you do what I do and you really take it seriously and you really believe in it to the core of who you are, like I do, you could never say no. That's going to be this too, and it's probably going to be a lot more than half not liking me, because they're going to say, oh, I'm a woman, and how does she do that, and how does she... And if you really think about what it means to be an American citizen, the cornerstone of our criminal justice system is that you are innocent until proven guilty. You have a right to a fair trial, and and I understand people's hesitation or skepticism or scrutiny. I mean, that's what people do. But I also think that the social media and this, we now give everyone a forum. Everyone thinks that what they say is important every day. One of my friends, my friend Kirk that you met, he says, I was in a meeting as a young lawyer, or as a young executive, and he came out of the meeting and someone said to him, your opinion's important, but everyone doesn't need to know what you think about everything all the time.
Social media, we walk around with the most powerful tool, our phones, right? We have access to millions and millions of people, and we can say and do whatever we please. But the key is, make sure that when you do that, just make sure it's like a positive message. Make sure it's something that needs to be heard, because not everybody needs to hear everything all the time. It's too much noise. So there's a thought that I wanted to read that you said. And I want to read this because I want to make sure that I get it word for word. I read a thought on the Me Too movement in the media, and it quoted, this is what you said: it allows the court of public opinion to take over the narrative. And when you can't come out, then either correct or challenge that narrative, it puts you in a position where you're stripped of your rights. Can you elaborate on that? Because it's so interesting that you said that.
Sure. So, I obviously get asked about Me Too on a regular basis, and I get asked about it because Me Too had its inception because of Harvey. So, I get a lot of pushback from people saying I shouldn't be commenting on it. Well, no, I should, because it wouldn't exist without this whole situation. I believe that although good things have come from Me Too, I think good conversations have come from Me Too. I think it has allowed women a forum to be able to speak in ways that maybe they couldn't before. And I think there's positives and negatives about that aspect. But if you look at Me Too as a whole and you say, okay, here's the positives that came from Me Too. Wonderful. But I believe that not one of those positives outweighs the negative of stripping someone of their right to a fair trial and being looked upon as innocent until proven guilty. So you can tell me that there's 5,000 positive things about Me Too, and if the only negative is that it takes a defendant's right away, or an accused, it doesn't even have to be a defendant, an accused, someone who's accused. And if you look at, I know a lot of people talk about the comedian, Anis Ansari.
Yes.
And you look at what happened to him, and an accusation changed the course of his entire life. Patrick Kane from the Blackhawks was accused of rape, and then all that information came out that she was lying. Kevin Spacey, they don't want to turn over the phone because the information in the phone was completely different than what the young man was telling. I mean, there's been so many instances where we can prove that people have lied, that for us to then say, well, we should have things like #BelieveAllWomen. It's like, well, wait a minute, where's that coming from? Because we have track records to be able to show that these stories quite often are not reliable. And so to me, those things become dangerous. So, I think that there has been plenty of circumstances that allow us to at least put on a pair of skeptical glasses.
Yeah, I agree. And I know one of the things that we talked about was inclusivity, was including men into the conversation. And I remember when I was sitting down with you, that light bulb, because the first season of Smart is the New Sexy was about women. It was created by women for women, but I felt like there was still something missing. Throughout my career, I've never had a woman mentor. It's always been men that have opened doors for me and that have seen, my hard work and determination and dedication. And for that, I'm so grateful for,
Sure, exactly,
right?
exactly.
And like right now, I wouldn't be standing here without my husband's support.
Correct.
He has supported me through all my crazy ideas, through everything, and having that conversation with you. And when you said you want to turn that conversation around, instead of exclusivity, to be inclusive. But we need to hear their perspective, because the only way to understand is to be able to understand what they're saying.
And how helpful would that be to teach in schools? You look at schools and you look at universities and campuses and the things that are being taught today, and you think really life skills and the way to interact, the way men and women interact, especially now in these situations where everything is so heightened after things like Me Too. People are afraid of holiday parties, and I think women may rue the day that all this happened, when no one opens the door for you and no one asks you out on a date and no one tells you that you look nice. I mean, I was in court the other day and a male lawyer said, "That's a beautiful dress. I don't know if I can say that." And I thought, oh God, that's so frustrating to me. We take time to look nice. It's nice, whoever compliments us,
it's
right?
true.
And so I just, I hope that the pendulum swinging so far in one direction will at some point correct itself. And I do think that if men and women have these conversations together and there's a little bit more understanding, and it's not as simple as a training at a job. I think it needs to be something that is taught to children at a young age. I think it's something that we can sort of make part of the social culture and conversation, and I think it's important.
How does that make you feel when someone says she's a bulldog in the courtroom?
So it's funny. One of my favorite clients of all time said that in an interview when they called him to ask about me, and it was a case that I won. He's a great guy, and he also said, which of course they didn't print, is that I'm a lawyer's lawyer, because he is an attorney, and that's such a huge compliment, and I thought, of course, that's not the part that they print. And I know that his characterization of me as a bulldog was in the most positive of ways, but of course, the way that gets.
I mean, when I heard that, I thought it was like, that's one person that's like, you go in there and she's going to do what she can to get that job done.
Well, and I'm definitely tough, and that's my job, to go in there and do what needs to be done. But I also do it within the confines of the law and the facts, and there's no win at all cost mentality. There's a go in and be professional and win that way. And I laugh because I know that that's the persona that I have. I know that's the impression people have of me, and I know that I think my directness gets mistaken for toughness. And I think that you can be direct without being, tough. And I think tough has this sort of negative connotation.
Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, Donna?
I see myself doing exactly what I'm doing now. I'm young enough to do that. I have no aspirations of, being a judge. A lot of lawyers want to do that. I have no aspirations of that. I love what I do. I love the office that I've built. I love the people that work with and for me. So I see myself doing it, maybe traveling a little more, maybe taking a little
more vacations.
I was thinking about it. I have not taken 7 consecutive days off. No, I take a lot of weekends, I do, but I haven't taken 7 consecutive days off since 2013.
When do you plan on doing that?
I think when this case is over, I will go back to my office and put back together the things that I've not been able to attend to, and then once I feel like things are a little bit better and back on track, I'm going to try to take a couple of weeks off.
What's one place you'd want to go?
Oh, I love to travel. I mean, even though I don't take long trips, I've gone all over the place. I've traveled extensively, but I think it will be anywhere that I can sit on a beach chair and feel no obligation to look or see or sightsee at anything other than water and, whatever book I'm reading at that point.
I know where you can go for that because I've been to a beach where it's called No Shoes, No News.
I finally got a second phone. I was like, I have to be able to leave one phone away and take the one that very few people have a number. So I finally did that. So.
You sound so much like me. Like my husband's like, why do you have your phone all the time? I'm like, my family. Like I need to know that everything's okay. He's like, they're okay. You just talk to them. I'm like, you never know. There's so many of them, right? I need to be accessible. He's like, you're accessible to your nieces, to your nephew. You know. I don't have to tell you anything new. You got 14 godchildren. I'm like, I thought I had a lot by saying I have 6. I'm like, you have 14. Donna, what's one thing you want the world to know about you?
I am much kinder than I think has been written or talked about or said or impressions or photographs that people take. I have a really huge heart. I help anyone that needs it, and I am definitely the person that people come to when they need something.
One of the last things I always ask my guests, what does smart is the new sexy mean to you?
I think when we look at characteristics of ourselves or of people, being smart really should be the cornerstone of what we aspire for ourselves. And whether that's book smart, whether that's street smart, whether that's smart in the world that we live in and about current events or whatever, or the choices that we make. I think being smart should be the foundation, and if you can achieve smart in whatever aspect, then nothing will make you sexier.
Thank you so much. I love this.